This is Pod Populi.
Podcast for the people.
The Great Love Debate. It's the Great Love Debate.
The Great Love Debate. It's the Great Love Debate.
Hi again, everyone. It's Brian Howie. Welcome to the Great Love Debate, the world's #1 dating and relationship podcast. Since 2015, we are here in the lovely studios of Pod Populi, podcast for the people. We're at the one in Scottsdale, which I haven't been here in a while. We are in the heart of the Scotts Dazzle here in Old Town. And if you check the etymology of the word Scottsdale, do you know what it translates to? Bottomless mimosas. That's what Scottsdale means. Fun fact for you kids kicking off things here, great love listeners. Somebody the other day, for like the millionth time, said, "You call yourself a dating expert?" And I said, "No, I never have. I never will. I most certainly do not. There is no such thing as a dating expert. I have been called a dating influencer. I have been called the dating influencer, and I like that moniker because what we do around here is we try to push the conversation and raise the questions, sometimes in ways and places that we all don't really want to go. So we're definitely not offering you expertise. I'm not sure we're even really offering you advice. We are giving you opinion. And I'm not just giving you my opinion. We are giving you the collective opinion of most of the men and women around the world because we have heard from a whole lot of them, more than probably anyone else ever has. And so we sprinkle a little paprika on it and we stick it in the oven for a bit. And then we serve it up hot and fresh and spicy to you. So do with this dish today whatever you choose. So a couple of months back, I did an episode called Too Much and Never Enough, which touched on the give and take of a relationship and how we can properly balance and hopefully thread the needle on what you need and what you can give and hope to get and want to have with your boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, whatever. And we did get a lot of feedback on that. And some was good and some was bad and some was puzzled. And we got a whole lot of questions. And one of the questions that came up a lot, a bunch, was around the concept of enough, which is a word and which is something that I've dove into a few times in the past. So I did give the question some thought and why it is important and how it manifests itself in a relationship, which is why you get just me today, because I kind of want to go off on a little bit of a tangent about this. You can call it a rant if you want, but I want to talk about enough and some other things. So as we said on the last episode, words are important, and feeling them and saying them and hearing them matters. And sometimes relationships can start off with one word. Hi. Yes. Maybe. All those are good. Those are all positive. And those are all hopeful. And sometimes a relationship can start or evolve off two words. I do. I believe. We can. Yes, please. Why not? And those are all good. And sometimes, and reams have been written about three words. I love you. I got you. Me and you. Let's do this. 3 words. But today, I want to focus on, or at least get things started with 4 words, and 4 words that can determine the fate of the rest of your life, or at least your relationship and the outcome of it, as much as any other. It can determine your future partnership, and it can determine the path of it all and which way you want to go with your partner and how long it will last. And I'm probably thinking, you guys are probably thinking this is like Wheel of Fortune and I'm asking you to guess the phrase. I'm not. And no, the 4 words are not, will you marry me? Although those are nice and they are important and those are good 4 words. And hopefully when you say it, you mean it and you want it and hope it's a yes and a forever and a happily ever after. But this show isn't about those 4 words. What I want to talk about is these 4 words. I have had enough. I have had enough. Enough of this, enough of you, enough of us. And when you say that and you believe it, it means you've drawn a line in the sand, and nothing about this situation will continue. I don't like the way this is going. I don't like the way this makes me feel. I don't like the way you make me feel. I want this to end or change or whatever, but I do not want this enough. Which is the flip side of the enough we've talked about before on the last podcast, or on the podcast I referenced previously. It is not a, satisfied, sufficient enough. Would you like another piece of pie? God, no, I can barely walk. I've had enough. It's not that. It's not a good enough. It's not pie. It's not I'm getting enough of what I need and enough of what I want and enough from this relationship. It is I have had enough of this. I don't want it anymore. I won't take it anymore. And I'm not going to be with you anymore. And you say, well, Brian Christopher Howie, you are always talking about happiness and hope and possibilities and rainbows around here. What is this you are throwing in this kettle, tossing in the stew? I'm saying it's important because it's where you can begin again. And when you say that, or when you think it, it's really when you can start to turn the page and find what you want and who you want it with. You find the life you want, the love you want. I am not going to put up with that anymore. Enough. I'm not going to live like this anymore. Enough. I don't want to feel this way again. Enough. But how do you know when that is? And how do you know what the last straw is if you keep finding new straws? You know where you can't find new straws anymore? Starbucks. There's no more straws. More straws at Starbucks. But anyway, you keep letting out a little more rope and a little longer leash and whatever metaphor you want to use to say, I can take more and I can keep going and this isn't going to break me. Well, you keep doing that and you have not only, permanently stretched out the sweater, but you can never get it to fit the way you want it to. I just give you a shitload of mixed metaphors there, but I think you get it. Enough. No more of this. No more of us. The only way you're ever going to get into the right relationship is to get out of the wrong one, which is often even harder to do. I mean, it's sometimes harder to rid yourself of the wrong one than to find the right one, which is crazy because we always talk about how hard it is to find the right one. But you waste time and energy and effort and emotion until you're just broken. And even leaving doesn't always satisfy you because you're so glazed and buried under it all that you can't even fathom starting again with someone else. So the damage of that relationship tumbles forward into the new one in every aspect of your life. And then suddenly 5 years go by when you're sort of thinking about dating again or trying someone else, anyone else. But you have to. And you have to try. And you need to breathe. And you just have to say, this won't work for me. I have had enough. But again, it's hard to know when that is. So let me go back a bit into the time before enough and explain how to find, the temporary from the permanent, if that makes sense. Sort of the temporarily, I have enough and we can change and work through it versus the permanent, this complete thing is done. So I want to get into that. Hopefully you haven't had enough of me or this and you will stick with me after the break. Because we're going to dive back into this. It's a little complicated. We're going to get back into it right after this. And we are back. So let's go back. Not quite to the beginning, but maybe to a few months into the relationship. I don't want to say the midpoint because it should probably skew, fairly soon, that 3 to 6 month make or break time in a relationship where things are going okay, but they aren't great and something's a little off and you want to ride it out and see where it goes. But it's not quite one of those, I'm feeling it in my gut things, especially that women say. Don't always trust that, nor should you. My gut is always right. No, it's not. If your gut was always right, you would never have gone out with any of these people. Sometimes it's indigestion or revisionist history or deja vu. So anyway, it's just, you're in this point in a relationship where you're like, I don't understand them or what we're doing and where we're going. And you're thinking, are we even remotely on the same page? And that's hard in any relationship because you have two people and you have two histories and you have two viewpoints and two sets of emotions and two life experiences and two very big sets of baggage that come along with that. And we're all bringing that together and try and merge that. You're trying to match your baggage up, trying to match your luggage up, which is even hard to do when you go on a vacation. And a lot of times emotion, good or bad, comes with secondary reactions. And any of you guys who've taken a college psychology course or Googled around, you've Googled around the interwebs about college stuff, knows that there's primary emotions and there are secondary emotions. And the primary ones, which generally are accepted as fear, sadness, interest, anger, joy, disgust, shame, and surprise. Is that 8? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Fear, sadness, interest, anger, joy, disgust, shame, and surprise. That's 8. So some can quibble with that, and they're like, no, there's 6, no, there's 9. We're going to go with 8. You heard me a couple episodes talk about Pluto's not a planet anymore. Pluto's a fucking planet. I'll die on that hill. So there's 8 primary emotions. Of those 8, if you break them down, 5 are generally processed by our brain as threats, as bad things. Sadness, fear, anger, disgust, and shame. Those are 5 of the 8. Even a 6th, surprise, that can be a bad thing too. A bear jumps out, surprise, it's a fucking threat. It sucks. So it's like 5.5 of the 8 are not necessarily good things of the way we're fundamentally wired. That's not good. So that leaves us with 2.5 things that sort of have to overcome and bail out the 5.5 that don't. Joy, which is on that list, joy is good. Interest is good because it piques your curiosity. Those are the possibilities. Joy and interest are the possibilities. That's where the hope lies. And surprise gets a 1/2 because sometimes it's a present or a party or a ring. Surprise. But mostly our emotions, all of our emotions, our default is wired at best on guard and at worst fucking basket cases. Okay? We're all sort of wired in a weird way that is like riddled with angst. And you say, wait, no, you're missing some. What about jealousy? What about guilt? What about love? Well, those are secondary things. Jealousy comes usually from a deep-rooted place of anger. Why do they have it when I don't? Why is it always her? Why can't it be me? And that might start when you're 4 years old and your sister got the bigger room. I don't know, but it comes from somewhere else that leads to jealousy. It's them, not me. And guilt usually comes from shame. I didn't feel worthy. I don't deserve this. I'm not good enough. I wish I didn't do that. Why did that happen? Not good. None of those are good. So then you're like, well, let's talk about love. Love is a fundamental feeling or a primary one. And then you're like, and it's really not. And love is the hardest to find because it's subjective and it's usually elusive unless you're, throwing around like, I love potato chips, But if you're really getting to the essence of what love is, it's hard. So you feel safe when you love, feel safe in the situation and hopefully in the environment and preferably with the person. And safe is what is absent about most of those 5.5 bad things that I talked about. Love, if it's done right, it won't make you angry. And love has few surprises. It's steady. And love doesn't mean jealousy. And love won't bring you disgust or shame or sadness. Again, hopefully. And you're like, Jesus, we have to take 2 people and try to analyze 16 emotions between us, and a total of 11 of those are bad, 5.5 from each, was 11 of those are bad. No wonder we don't ever get together, or it's rarely right. I don't understand how this can work. And, you can look at it as a good thing we rarely get together or it's rarely right, because when you do, then it means something. But you're like, I don't understand how any of this can work. But it does start there. And you're like, where did he go with all this? Because he talked about enough. This is before you get to enough. And this is how you avoid the downside of enough. You start with, do I understand? And I bring up this psychology stuff and the knee-jerk and react